to the first of our collaborative Town Centre Health Check Heritage Council youth panels from the Youth Voices team of the Museum of Childhood Ireland. Our aim is to capture the voice of children and young people as they explore their role in revitalising Ireland's historic town centres. Aligning with commitments made on the UNCRC, children are considered competent, active citizens with the right to participate in decision-making appropriate to their development. Involving children in decision-making and participation in relation to their local environment fosters a sense of citizenship and belonging. Ultimately, this link can be linked to sustainability, where sustainable development is underpinned by a highly participatory local community, with the collaborative Town Centre Health Check Heritage Council aiming to become a model of best practice for collaborative regeneration. This proposal focuses on an innovative way to ensure that children and youth are considered central to the discourse of urban development within town centres. For the contemporary child, urban policy is focused upon efficient movement and not necessarily places to meet, play, and hang out. This has highlighted the need to create more human-scale cities where livability is promoted. Central to livability is an assurance that the insights and perspectives of all members of their community are captured, with moves towards public participation evident in urban planning discourse. Research has proven that meaningful citizenship participation leads to better decision-making, social stability, and a sense of ownership and engagement. Participatory planning is rooted in the conviction that people should be able to participate in decisions that most impact them. The challenge for children and young people is how to ensure that they can participate and be heard, encouraging them to assert themselves against the perceived authorities of adults. This proposal sets out to creatively engage with children, proactively ensuring our engagement meet the access needs of all our children, ensuring that the multiple and diverse experiences of the town centre are given a voice in planning, practice, and decision making.
Hi everyone, my name is Freya Feeney. I am a member of the Youth Voices panel here with the Museum of Childhood Ireland. And I'm here today with my fellow Youth Voices panel members, Danny and Sinead and Nicole. And today we're going to be talking about our exciting collaboration that we're doing with the Heritage Council. And it focuses completely on urban development and healthy town centres across Ireland. So it's really important to us that the voices of children and young people are heard. So we're all young people and we all have our own thoughts on what is important to us that we want to see in town centres. And that's what we're going to share with you tonight. We're all going to show you what we think we would like to see in urban town centres that would make them more livable in and more assets to the community. So I'm going to begin with my PowerPoint about things I think I would love to see in urban town centres across the country. So the first thing that I would love to see is eco-friendly transport. I am from Dublin and I take Dublin bus a lot and I take the Lewis a lot and I've taken the Dart. So I'm very, very used to all the different forms of public transport there are. And I'm so happy to say that it is moving in a more eco-friendly direction, which is brilliant. But I still think there's a lot of work that can be done. And this is so important for our future as a planet, a healthy planet. And it also will be good if we're cycling and walking more for our own health. So I think that in order to facilitate this, town councils and town development committees really need to invest in making cycle lanes and lock bikes safely and making cycling more appealing. So an example of that is this that I have here, and this is Greystones, which is a gorgeous village in Wicklow. And as you can see, they've just have done something very small, very, very simple. It's not going to break the bank. They've just made some lovely heart-shaped places to lock your bike. And I think that it is really nice because it's a fun way to encourage people to cycle. It's creating a safe space for bikes to be left unattended. And it's just adding a little bit of personality that they're heart shaped instead of being your average place to lock your bikes. And if I had somewhere like this, I would feel much more safe compared to locking it to some pole or traffic light. So that's the type of thing that I think should be in all towns. Luckily, they are in a lot of towns, but I think it should be really, really vital that you have somewhere safe to lock your bike so that people do feel safe cycling, and it would lower emissions from cars. And if there's less cars on the roads, it's a safer place for children to play as well. So there's really no downsides to this, I think. Then the next thing I would say is book knocks. And this is an idea which I think is really, really cool. And it will add to recycling because here you can see them. They're usually in public parks or places like that. There's one in my local park, which I love. And it's just like a little birdhouse type thing. And it has books in it, and you can take a book and you can leave a book. And so it's completely free. So it really makes reading an accessible thing for members in the community. And I also love the kind of interaction that you're getting books that other people have read that live near you. So it's like, oh, what do other people like to read? And there's that sense of what other people like, you'll have a try, and then it might be for you, or it might be, and you're kind of interacting with people in your community in that way. And it's just so accessible in terms of being 100% free and so eco-friendly as well, instead of going out and printing more books and wasting more paper. So, and it's such a simple idea. You know, the ideas we're talking about here today aren't necessarily going to cost billions of euro and years of construction. I'm talking about a book nook that's made of wood in a park, and it requires minimal effort to maintain, and it is cost free completely as well. So I think it's a really lovely thing to do. Next thing that I have here is urban gardening, which I think is a really, really cool idea for urban places, because we have really lost in a lot of urban centres that connection with nature. They're kind of turning into concrete jungles a bit. So eco-friendly, no shipping needed in terms of we're not having our vegetables or our flowers brought in on trucks spilling oil from halfway across the world. We're just growing them ourselves. Also, the locality of it would mean that they're all things that are in season, and they're all things that, you know, are in touch with your local area, that are things that viably can grow where you're from. It inspires a new hobby in young people if young people are out maintaining these gardens and learning how to garden. And it also is really educational because you're learning about seasonal produce, seasons, life cycles, and nutritional awareness as well. It's cost effective because you're literally just buying seeds, which cost a couple of euro. And I also think it would look really, really beautiful in towns and villages to have plants and flowers growing in the local areas. And it, of course, promotes biodiversity, which is vital at the moment when we're seeing all these, like the bees disappearing and everything like that. And it is so scary. And I think young people are feeling that fear, especially. And this is just a little step in the right direction. I think that it's a really, really cool thing to do. And it would, you know, it wouldn't take that much. So that is really my presentation about some just 3 little ideas that I think would be really, really helpful to make urban centres have more life and just have that sense of community. Next, I think we're going to go to Sinead, who has another PowerPoint about all her brilliant ideas about what she would like to see in urban town centres. So take it away, Sinead.
Okay, I'm just going to share my screen as well. There we go. Is that okay? Okay, perfect. So there. My presentation is about how we can utilise existing spaces to improve our towns. So by shaping plans around what's already there, we can both preserve the individuality of our towns and also promote improvement in a way that makes more sense. So my ideas are based around my own town, which is Wexford. And Wexford is located on the River Slaney. However, there's no swimming spot in town. And there used to be one in a sheltered spot in the harbour, which is circled in this slide here, but that was quite a long time ago now. So this led me to research tidal pools. The example shown here is in Belmullet, County Mayo. And as you can see, they're quite unobtrusive on surroundings. They're easily accessible and quite easily built as well. So to me, this seems like a really great option to promote leisure activity and exercise. And that again can have knock-on benefits for both physical and mental health, as well as tourism. So how would a tidal pool look in Wexford? I think there is definitely potential for one near the old swimming spot in Ferrybank. It's at the mouth of the river and it's a really sheltered spot. And of course, there's a few considerations such as water quality, safety, or costs. But considerations or logistics aside, it's just an example of how we can be thinking about planning around existing spaces to help our towns to reach their potential. So the next topic I was thinking about is gathering spaces. Over the past year, the Wexford Quay has been transformed by the addition of local coffee and food vans. And there's so many more people just using the quay as a meeting spot. It's amazing the power of a cup of coffee to draw people in. It definitely works. So it would be great to see the use of more social spaces reflected around town, especially regarding green spaces, which, like an awful lot of towns, we are lacking in, unfortunately. There are a few squares in town, but more of them are used for parking than for social gathering spaces. Here is one square, which is St. Peter's Square, and it's a really great example of a small space which can have a great impact. It's been used for local open mic events and concerts in the past year, and I think it's an ideal location for future events and small gatherings. So I think it would be really great to see more of this in other spaces around town, but again, this raises the parking issue. And parking, of course, it's necessary and we need space for that. But it's also really, really important for people to have spaces in which to socialize in town. So I don't have the answer, but I think it's definitely something we could be thinking about and discussing more and more in the future. So that's the end of my presentation. And I hope you took something from it and maybe something that you can apply to your own town as well.
Thank you so much, Sinead. I thought that was so interesting. And I loved the way you used what your town had. It's really, I got a really good sense that you know your town really well, that you're a really true native Wexford girl. And I also love what you said there, that you don't have all the answers, because, you know, it is a community thing that everyone should, you know, come together and brainstorm, and, you know, great minds think alike, but, you know, different people will have different ideas, and then together they'd come up with the answers. It's not about one person having all the answers. So I loved that. And I also thought what you were saying about the green spaces was really funny, because during the pandemic, I've seen so many more coffee trucks and things pop up because restaurants and things have been closed, and suddenly everyone's having takeaway coffee on the side of the road. But it is nice to see people socializing together outside. So next we're going to have Danny and his presentation. So take it away, Danny.
Hi everyone, my name is Danny Sheehy. I'm from Tralee, County Kerry. So my my presentation is on a similar topic to everyone else, which is livable cities. So what I feel is that the cities, towns, and villages that we live in are made up of people, but they are not designed or made for people. They're currently in a state of being tied to cars and being tied to old logic. So there's three topics that I'd like to speak on in how we can improve towns, villages, and cities and make them more livable. Those are walkability, biodiversity, and having a town first design. So firstly, talking about walkability. So in regards to walkability, I believe that more active mobility and active transport needs to be implemented within our villages, towns, and cities. So this means that a person can walk to everything they need in a short amount of time. There's a term and concept as a 15-minute town, where you can reach everything you need to reach within a town. So all the services, shops, libraries, hospitals, all that within 15 minutes of you. If we could try to get that formal design of thinking in urban planning, we would see a huge rise in quality of life because people will have everything close to them and they won't have long waiting to get to one place and a lot of traffic and the associated health costs. I'd like to see public transport reform. I'm currently residing in the city in Ireland, which is naturally, and the huge difference in being able to get public transport from one side of a place, an area to another, rather than walking or having to rely on a car or a bike, is huge. And I think that everyone in every part of Ireland should be able to benefit from such a uh, wonderful thing. And I think that the move towards having more rural public transport can only be commended. So moving on to biodiversity, I think urban parks are how we start with this. So most towns have town parks, and those can be the starting point. So I believe that there needs to be urban animal conservation programs where the local council, local authority, in conjunction with the government, identifies what animals and species live in an area, how their success can be helped by our policies, and how they're currently being hindered by our policies. So I think that if programs like this were in place and furthered, then you would see a large increase in the biodiversity in areas. And finally, I believe that tree planting and local fauna plans should be implemented. This would see a large increase in tree planting in urban areas, which we have seen to have numerous benefits. For instance, in regards to hot temperatures in the summer, urban areas which have trees have less of an effect when it comes to heat waves because the shade of trees prevents um, the ground from heating up, the tar and whatnot on the ground, which means that people can walk to and from places, and uh, areas where people live aren't as disrupted by heat waves. It's only one benefit of tree planting. Everyone knows all the others. You get more life in the city. It's nicer, and of course, it helps with climate change. It's a small action to help with a big problem. Finally, moving on towards a town first design. What is a town first design? A town first design is where planners decide that instead of relying on cars for people to use as transport, they try to fit as many services as possible in town centres, which means that people no longer have to drive as far as they have to. For instance, in my hometown, one of the major retail parks is towards the edge of town. If it was in the center of town, it would be a lot closer to a lot of people. As well as that, you see a lot more lively areas when you have everything within walkways, within walking distance of each other. And in regards to towns and biodiversity and trees, during the summer, I was involved in a group back in Tralee that was protesting trees being torn down unnecessarily. And one of the ideas I encountered there was the tree highway. So, in order to illustrate the point of how fauna and flora, so increasing plants as well as animals works in combination, I was introduced to the tree highway idea, which is where you plant trees along an area from one area where animals live to another so that they can go back and forward, and the associated benefits of that where they have more than one habitat space. So going back to the town first design, uh, so the idea is that you have as much as possible within the town centre. You prevent car dependent retailing, where you have most of your retail spaces outside of towns. I think we're all used to there's a large road outside your town, so then the smart idea is to put a shopping centre near that large road rather than in the middle of town. And finally, in regards to town versus design and going back to the whole point of having a livable town, I think the whole idea is to have an area where you have a lot of people living close to town, close to each other, in a town that actually feels as though it's home rather than you have a few shops here, a few shops over there, a few services here, a few services over there. Everything kind of intertwines with each other, and it feels a lot more livable, and you can get everything you need out of it within a short space of time rather than spending your day back and forth all around the place, dragging yourself. While it might seem small, the small everyday tasks we do, they might feel as though they don't have make a difference in our lives. Think about all the spare time people would have if they didn't have to travel from A to B all the time. A and B were next door to each other. It's all about making small changes to make a big difference, and I think that we'll be pleasantly surprised if we started implementing them. So that's generally my point. So I'd like to hand it back, please.
Thanks so much, Danny. I find those tree highways such a cool idea. I find that fascinating. And it is also so true that those small changes really, really are so important. And it's the small changes that make a big difference. And now we have Nicole. Thanks so much. So that's the end of our little presentations today. I hope that you all learned so much, as much as I did, about all the amazing little things we can do to make our town centres much more enjoyable places to live and work so much more effectively. And that's all of what we have to say tonight. So from the Museum of Childhood and all of us here on the Youth Voices panel, thanks for listening. Bye.